All right, this is a tutorial to help you get started if you're in that Climb Iowa group, if you're editing that Climb Iowa video together. I think this will give you a good start, and then you can make modifications as you go, but this will walk you through how to get started with your rough cut so you can kind of take it over from there. You should have the files on the computer you're working on. Should be a Climb Iowa folder here with folders for audio, exports, graphics, media, and projects. You're welcome to edit in the classroom, even if there's a class there, as long as you've got headphones on. Otherwise, it'll be really distracting for students there if there's another class or someone else editing or something like that. So make sure you've got a pair of headphones you can plug into the side of the computer. Okay, in this folder, you're going to have an audio folder with lots of stuff in it. You'll have an exports folder that's empty, an empty graphics folder. You'll have a media folder with lots of stuff in it, and an empty projects folder. Let's go ahead and start filling this up. I'm going to go and create a new Premiere project. I'm going to find Premiere in my dock. If you don't see it there, you can use the little magnifying glass to find Premiere and get that opened up. And let's open up Premiere. All right, so I've got Premiere. I'm going to make a new project here. So I'm just going to click on New Project. And you've seen this before, but maybe it's been a while. Under project name, please call this Climb Iowa, then your name, then Rough Cut. That's what I want you to call this. And then under project location, make sure you choose, click the drop down and choose location. If you don't do this, it's just going to save it in some random folder on your computer. You'll never find it. You want to save it into that folder that's on your desktop that has the 5-folder setup. For me, it's not on my desktop. It's in my hard drive. I'm going to find that here. It should look pretty much the same. In this Climb Iowa folder here, I'm going to save it into the projects folder right here. Save it in there and click on Choose. Now these options here on the right, copy media, new bin, create new sequence, make sure those are all unchecked. Those do not need to be checked. They can all be gray. Just click on Create. And now I have a blank, empty Premiere project, right? Nothing in it. If you have a panel on the right here that's like a Learn panel, I think it looks something like this, a Learn panel here, go ahead and close that. Just click on the little hamburger icon right here and close that panel, just so that's not there. I just want my kind of 4 main panels here. Now it's time for me to start importing some media. I'm going to go to my little finder, my blue face down here. I'm going to find my media folder and my audio folder. I'm just going to click and drag and click here in this project panel. Oh, and I had some sort of error here about a file type not being supported. I think that's because there are some PKF files that are not supported. That's fine. They just didn't import those. So if you get an error, it's probably fine. It probably means that this file here, this one that says HPRJ at the end, can't go into Premiere, but everything else was able to go in. You know, all the important stuff was able to go in. So I have all of my audio right there. Do the same thing with my media folder. Just click, drag, and click. Okay, fabulous. So I've got my media here. You're going to see something down here on the bottom right. It's going to say it's creating peak files. What that's doing is it's creating the waveforms for the audio tracks. So just keep that in mind. It's okay. As long as this is going, it's not a big deal. Okay, I'm going to create a new sequence from scratch. I'm going to make a new sequence from scratch. So at the top, I'm going to go File, then New, and then Sequence. Then in these tab options here, I have this option called Settings. I'm going to choose that. Under Editing Mode, I'm going to choose Custom. My time base is going to be 29.97 frames per second. Now, some of the footage you filmed was in 60 frames per second, but I'm just going to do 29.97. Your frame size is going to be 1920 by 1080. And then that should be it, except for sequence name. I'm going to give, this is my main sequence, so I'm going to call it Climb Iowa, my name, Rough Cut. And I'll click on OK. Boom, I've got an empty sequence. There's nothing in it, but I'm going to fill it up pretty soon here. First, I'm going to make another folder here in my project panel here. And by the way, if your project panel looks like this, where you see the icons, click on this little list mode here so you can see it as a list. And then click on this little folder right here. I'm going to make a new sequences folder. I'm going to drop this Climb Iowa sequence into that sequences folder. We're going to make a few different sequences in order to actually make this project work. Okay, then I'm going to just uncollapse my audio folder here so I can see all my different audio. I can see this is all of my audio from the different various things that you did, but I have this voiceover right here that's just going to provide a little bit of structure to help you get started. I'm going to move this into this top audio track right there, and then I'm going to use this little wheel over here to zoom in a bit. Now I can see my audio track, but it's also like very small. It's very hard to see. If I move my cursor in between 2 tracks, it becomes a funny looking double arrow thing. If I click and drag, then I can see these waveforms a bit more clearly. And if I move my playhead over those waveforms, I can hear it as well.
There's one place in Des Moines East Village that can take your trip to new heights. Climb Iowa.
Okay. So what you see in this clip here is you're going to see a few places where I'm speaking, I'm saying your voiceover, and then there's a dead space here, and then you hear me speak again, and then you see some more dead space, and you see me speak again, and then you see some more dead space here. What I'm envisioning here is that in these dead spaces, what we would do is we're going to use our little cut tool, make just little cuts in these areas of dead space. And these will just be kind of, when the voiceover person is speaking, we'll see B-roll, we'll see footage, that sort of thing. And then when there's dead space, we'll fill that dead space with stuff from interviews or stuff from the tutorial that Logan gave to Anna, something like that. But let's work with how this is going to start for now. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to find where the voiceover starts speaking, right about there. Use my cut tool, cut that there, then use my selection tool to cut that. I'll just move this over here. And so the way this video starts is something like this.
There's one place in Des Moines East Village that can take your trip to new heights. Climb Iowa.
Now I feel like it's a little bit quiet. It's a little bit silent. If I've made this track a little bit bigger, though, I'm going to see this long horizontal line right here. And if I move my mouse directly over that line, my mouse changes into this kind of double arrow thing. If I click on this and drag up, I can actually boost this a little bit, boost the volume on it a little bit.
There's one place in Des Moines East Village that can take your trip to new heights.
I want it to be so that these bars here, I'm not really getting above this like minus 15 to 18 area, and that's going to be just fine. Okay, so I've got this track here. I've got my first little bit of voiceover here. Next thing is just to find some B-roll to kind of go over this voiceover here. So I'm going to go into my media folder. And actually, for these folders, my camera A, camera B, camera C, I don't want to see them in list mode. I kind of want to see them in the icon mode so I can actually get a better idea of what the footage looks like. So here's what I'm going to do. For camera A, double click on the folder itself, the folder icon right here. And it's going to open it in another tab. So we've got multiple tabs here. It's going to open it in this tab. This tab I'm going to set to be in this kind of icon mode. And it looks like camera A, you'll see a preview here in a moment. It looks like camera A is mostly interview stuff. So that's fine. That's good for me to know. I'm going to go back to here, go to my camera B folder. Let's see what's in camera B. And then instead of list mode, again, let's go into this icon mode. And I'm going to start to see all of my footage here. Some of it is interview footage, right? It's the Logan footage. And then some of it is climbing footage, B-roll, things like that. Great, and there's so much to work with. Love it, lots to work with. This will be really fun for you to just look through and figure out what you think is going to work. And then same thing for camera C. I'm going to make this its own tab just by double clicking on the little folder icon. Pop this into that icon mode. Some of this is the interview footage between Anna and Logan, and others is more of that really cool B-roll that you have. It looks like you also have an OTF in here as well. That's great. Okay, so what you can do next is to see the actual footage. If you just want to look through and browse through the footage, it might be a good idea to just kind of pick out your favorite clips here. Some of your favorite high-impact stuff that you want to happen right here over this voiceover. This is going to be part of your job. Now, you can look very briefly through the clips by just hovering your mouse over them, and you can kind of see a preview of what they look like just by doing this. If you want to see them a bit bigger and also hear what they sound like, you would just double click on them and it'll show up here in this what's called the source panel. Then you get to see it. And you get to see that footage, which looks great. The other thing you can do too is if you find like clips that you really like, that like are kind of your favorite, if you right click on a clip and then you have the option here to use label, you can give it different colored labels. Like I can label this rose. And then this will have this red label. It won't show up when I'm in this icon mode, but when I go back to list mode, see this like favorite clip of mine now has this rose label on it now instead of the regular blue label. That can be really useful. Once you've looked through all the clips, you kind of know which ones are your favorite, which ones are the best ones to work with. We can see weights, we can see the different logos and things like that. So I am just going to pick I'm not going to go through this process for you. I'm just going to pick a couple places here. As Blake says, new heights. I'm going to pick, let's see, he talks for about, or it's me speaking, sorry, for about 5 seconds before I'm done there. I'm going to pick maybe 1 or 2 clips here. Now, this clip here is long. It's like 40 seconds long. Obviously, I don't need the whole thing. If I want to just pick out one section of it, I can just move my playhead somewhere in here, and then I can press the I key on my keyboard, and I've created an in point right there. I'm telling Premiere is I only want from here on. And then if I really only want a few seconds of this, like maybe only this much, I can move my playhead there and tap the O key on my keyboard, and I've created an out point. Then I can click and drag this onto my timeline. But I've noticed a problem here. If I click and drag this so that it's right here, it's actually the audio is covering up that voiceover audio. I don't want it to do that. So before I click and drag, I'm going to find this little blue icons over here on the left, and I'm going to click here right next to A2. What this is going to do is when I drag this over, it's going to make it so that the audio track from this B-roll goes there into that A2 track there. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a bit here. I'm going to make this track 2, open that a little bit more so I can see the waveforms a bit better. Let's take a listen.
I can take your trip to new heights.
Okay, so as you can see, the audio from this is just the camera audio. It's super loud. It's a lot louder than just my voiceover. That we're going to worry about audio mixing a little bit later for the final cut, but because it's going to make it hard for you to edit, go ahead and find that horizontal line that I showed you before, move your mouse directly over, and just pull that down, maybe to minus, I don't know, 30 or 40.
One place in Des Moines East Village that can take your...
We still want to be able to hear it, a little bit, but we just don't want it to be overpowering that voiceover, so we can't hear the voiceover anymore. I'm going to take another clip here of some people climbing. I don't know, a really good clip here of some people climbing. And drop this in here. Turn down the volume a little bit. And then I think right where I say Climb Iowa right here,
Climb Iowa.
I think maybe it might make sense to see the logo, maybe. I don't know. Might make sense to see that. Or maybe it makes sense to see my exterior establishing shot. Let's see, I'm just kind of looking through. Somewhere else maybe where I have an establisher, maybe this might make sense, the door. And I'm just going to in and out, a little short snippet of it, don't need much. Turn down the volume so it's not overpowering. And let's see kind of how that looks. I'm just going to kind of zoom out here a little bit, and we'll get a sense of how this looks.
There's one place in Des Moines East Village that can take your trip to new heights. Climb Iowa.
Okay, so after I say Climb Iowa, what I would envision here, what would make sense, would be to go into your interview or something like that, or maybe not. Maybe you want to hear a little bit more of the voiceover.
Viewfinder producer and novice climber Anna Paul talked with gym director Logan Dirksen about the indoor climbing facility and even got a lesson in climbing. And
so it probably actually makes sense to actually show Anna here. So I'm going to move my voiceover here. Actually, I'll just move it right over here. Just fill this in here. So I'm not even really cutting out very much. And I'll have...
Viewfinder producer and novice climber Anna Paul talked with gym director...
Where I have this viewfinder producer and novice climber Anna Paul, maybe it would make sense to show Anna, maybe show her climbing or something like that. Just show some of this footage of the climbing. Or it might make sense to show kind of a clip of kind of smiling face or something like that. Maybe it might make sense to have a clip like this. We're kind of introducing her. Something like that might make sense. So I'm going to turn this down a bit.
Anna Paul.
And then I might find a kind of climbing clip. You can kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Just kind of finding clips here that might make sense. And get some footage of Anna climbing. Might be kind of fun. I'm just kind of cutting it down here. And again, turning it down a bit.
Climbing facility.
And then maybe, since I mentioned Logan here, it might make sense to show some footage of Logan speaking. But this is just footage of just seeing his face. I'm not really hearing him here. This is just some footage that kind of is giving me context for what I'm about to see in this video.
and falling.
And then maybe where I say and falling, if I had a clip of Anna falling, I would throw that in here too. I don't know if I will or not. I hope I don't. But yeah, this is what I'm basically doing is I'm just kind of filling in this space. After I say we have Anna had this conversation with Logan, this is where it might make sense to actually bring in some of that conversation. So your video edit is a little bit different because I do anticipate there being a decent amount of that conversation, but let me just show you what's at the end of the voiceover. There's only 2 more sections here at the end of this voiceover. One section here.
Des Moines residents have great things to say about the unique downtown climbing facility.
So that's just the, that's where you'll throw in your OTFs. So we're going to have some stuff of your interview with Logan. You'll kind of put that together like a multi-camera interview. And then I imagine your OTFs could happen after that.
It's a fun stop to add to your Des Moines travel itinerary, if you're up to the challenge.
And then I have that kind of outro there where I have that stupid pun about up to the challenge. You can obviously work on as much of this as you want to, and we are going to replace this audio so it's not my voice later on for another edit. But let's talk about how to edit this, this kind of multi-camera component that you have here, because that's going to be a big job here. So we're going to click on our project panel here. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to find, actually, before I do that, I'm going to go into my, it's actually fine to have my bins here, my camera A, my camera B, my camera C bin. And I'm going to find the clips here where it's the interview. I'm going to find the clips that correspond to the interview. So this one here, it looks like, this is just like, so this is the first, this is the camera angle of Anna speaking. It looks like it broke it up into multiple clips. That's fine. Yeah, okay. So your camera C here, your camera broke it up into multiple clips. That's fine, but it's these 2 clips are the interview. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to right-click on this first one here, and I'm going to click New Sequence from Clip. It's going to make a sequence here. It's probably going to show it at the bottom of your bin here. The sequence name is just going to be MVI, a bunch of numbers, the same name as your main clip there. I'm going to rename this sequence. I can just click on the words there and rename it to camera C. It's that camera C sequence. Okay. And then because your camera kind of split it into multiple clips, I'm going to take this second part of the clip here and drag it and drop it. I'll need to double click on it, sorry. I'll need to double click it here, and then I'll need to actually right click somewhere on this little timeline here and go to clear in and out. So I made some in and outs there. And then I'm going to drag this right in here and maybe move this up. So what I've done is, we kind of did this with the multi-camera interview, right?
You are almost out of frame in the wide shot. Can we have with the different types of equipment? Yeah.
And I know it's still...
What do you guys normally use for
Great, so I know it's, I've got these both together. Make sure there's no dead space in between them. Make sure they're right up next to each other. These 2 clips here are right up next to each other. That'll be really important. Oops. You're not cutting any of them off. Great. So I've got I've got this sequence called camera C ready to go. Okay. I'm going to go to my little camera A bin here. It looks like the same thing. Looks like your camera A, maybe cut it into multiple files here.
We definitely considered it, and as
I'm just making sure that that's the case.
the realization, this is like one.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first one, this first little clip here, and I'm going to, again, make a new sequence as clip. I'm going to right-click, do new sequence from clip. It's going to make a sequence. The name is kind of annoying. It's a bunch of numbers. I'm going to rename it to camera A. I'm going to take the second clip, the one that your camera made a second clip there, double-click on it, and drag it into here. So they're right next to each other. And just double-check and make sure that worked. Okay, so I've got my camera A sequence, my camera C sequence, and then I'll do my camera B bin here. I'm going to look through. This looks like I'm going to if you have ins and outs that you made here, just right click in here somewhere and do clear in and out. We don't need those now. Again, I'm going to right click on this and do new sequence from clip. And I'll call this, just click on the word there and call it camera B. And then again, I'm going to take this clip here, drag it right to the end there, so that those are together. Okay, so I've made 3 new sequences. I've made a camera C sequence that's on Anna, a camera A sequence that's on Anna and Logan, and a camera B sequence that's just on Logan. All right, this is what you did for the multi-camera interview. Same kind of process here. Now I'm going to make a multi-camera sequence to bring these all together. So I'm going to go back to my tab here on the left, my project tab, and I'm going to open up, just drag this little media folder down, just click on the little drop-down arrow there. First, I'll click on my camera A, and I'm going to find the sequence that I just made. I'm going to have this green label here. I'm going to drop this into my sequences folder. Same thing with camera B. I'm going to find that sequence that I just made, camera B, drop it into my sequences folder. Same thing with camera C, drop it like it's hot into that sequences folder. Last thing I need to find, I need to identify is my audio. So I need to go into my audio folder right here, and I need to find the audio that corresponds to my sequences, to my multi-camera sequences that I just made for this. So for this, I'm just going to have to kind of listen to them. I'm going to have to click on the little drop down to listen through each one and see what is this one. It sounds like it's probably 2 here. One is probably your boom mic, or one is probably Logan's lab, one is probably Anna's lab is what I'm assuming.
Outreach within Des Moines, just knowing that there's kind of like a big range of...
Yeah, so I'm assuming that this is Anna's lab for the interview, and I'm assuming this is...
I opened, there was a like small, very niche community.
Logan's lab for the interview. I'm assuming that's what that is. This one here, I'm assuming is maybe...
I'm definitely more of like a germaphobe.
This is something else. I'm not sure. This one here maybe is an OTF.
Well, we're gonna...
Perfect.
This is maybe the tutorial, and I'm assuming these are probably OTFs.
It is the first sport that has ever made sense to.
Sure. So I know that this folder here has my 2 different audio sources from the interview. I've got Logan's lab and Anna's lab. So I'm just going to click on each of them. I could just click on one and hold shift on the other one. And I'm going to drop this into the sequences folder. Okay. Now I'm going to open up this sequences folder. Just click on this little drop down here. And I've got a few different things here. I've got my main sequence, my Climb Iowa sequence. Got my camera A, camera B, camera C, and then I have my 2 audio sources. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to choose, I'm actually just going to choose one of my audio sources. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose one of them though. Doesn't matter which one, but I have to click on one of them first. Just a single regular click on one of them. And then I'm going to hold the Command key on my keyboard and then click on camera C, B, and A. And it's really important that the first thing you click is one of the audios. Doesn't matter the order of the camera ones, but it's really important the first one is the audio. So I'm going to click on, doesn't matter which one of these audios, I'm going to click on this one first, I guess, and then Command C, B, A. So I'm highlighting those. Then I will do, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create multi-camera source sequence. This one, under the drop down, I'm going to do custom. And I'm just going to call it interview. And then you're going to synchronize it by audio. So choose that audio option. This option here, if there's a check here, make sure to uncheck that move source to process clip spin. We don't need that. For channel preset, we want to do mono. And then enumerate cameras is fine. And then click OK. Now the process might take a while because it's a long interview, but it will do it. You're going to have a new sequence here. It's just called interview. Now this is what's called a source sequence. We can't really do anything with this yet. So again, we need to right click on this interview sequence you just made and then choose new sequence from clip. And now I have a proper interview sequence. It's a multi-camera interview sequence. By default, the first camera angle you see, it might be Anna, it might be the camera A, it might be camera B or C. That doesn't really matter right now, but the audio you hear should be one of the high quality microphones here. So probably the first one I chose was Anna.
Experienced and inexperienced climbers.
Yes.
So great. So I've got this Anna camera angle for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this interview sequence here. I'm going to just make this track a little bit bigger, make this audio track a little bit bigger so I can see it better. I can see my waveforms, and yeah, I can see that this one is definitely Anna, and I know that my other audio one that I have here, this track 2 one, is going to be Logan. Here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take my this other Zoom audio file here. I'm going to drag it underneath the one where Anna is speaking. It should be the exact same length, but the waveforms should look different because it's a different person speaking. And I shouldn't actually even need to synchronize this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I'm going to highlight all of them, then do right click and do synchronize. And I'll synchronize by audio. Great. So it's synchronized those. The Logan with Anna. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I want these to kind of start at exactly the same time. So I'm going to squish this one in a little bit this way. Make sure it's the same on the other end here. And then last thing, I want to make sure that, so I've got two audio tracks here. One's Anna and one is Logan. But if I make a cut, for example, if I were to make a cut to this, it's only going to cut this part with Anna's audio. I want to actually link all of this together. So I'm going to highlight all of them and then just on my keyboard do Command L. That's going to unlink all of them. And then if I highlight them one more time, Command L, now all of these are highlighted. So if I move any of them, they all go together. So the audio tracks, the video, they all go together. Now, of course, you're only seeing one camera angle right now, right? You're only seeing the one person here. But if you want to see multiple camera angles, we need to do multi-camera view for this. We'll come to this. Let's go ahead and pick the camera angle we want to do. So to see the multi-camera view, you need to have this icon here in your program panel. If you don't have this icon, click on this little plus sign, and you'll see a bunch of different icons you can add to this little toolbar. The one we want here is this one, this kind of hopscotch looking one, and you can just click and drag it into this little toolbar. Then click OK. Then I will click on this, and now I can see my multiple camera angles. I'm just going to choose this camera A camera angle for now, just so I can know what's happening. And I don't need to do any camera switching beyond that. So I'm going to click on this again to go back into my regular single camera view. This might be a good time to save, file, save if you're not saving regularly. Good time to save, but I've got my interview kind of multicam here. All right. I'm going to take my camera B sequence here and close it, my camera A sequence here and close it, my camera B sequence and close it. So I've just got my two sequences open, my Climb Iowa one and my interview one. Okay, so my rough cut main sequence. What I have is I just said something, my voiceover just said something like Anna Paul interviewed Logan Dirksen.
And fall.
So after I say that in my voiceover, then that makes sense for us to go into the interview. So you'll go into your interview sequence here, and this is where you would do some of the process that you did with that multi-camera interview. You're going to try to find those high-impact quotes, those high-impact conversations, and because in this situation you have not just Logan answering questions, but also have Anna asking questions, you can pick out a few different parts here, and you'll be able to do some fun camera switching. Now, I haven't listened to this super carefully, but I'm just going to kind of pick something arbitrarily. What I'd like you to do is don't take this whole interview, right? This is, it's a 20-minute long interview. We don't need all of it. We're going to pick some high-impact kind of interactions here. And because we have this camera A with Anna, it's important that we have interactions where Anna is either speaking or reacting or something like that. I'm just going to pretend that this is a section that I definitely want. Now, let's say that right here is a section I want. I'm going to use my cut tool and just cut out maybe this section where Anna asks a question and Logan answers. And let's see, something like this. Let's say that this is a great segment. Again, I haven't listened to it, but let's say that that's a great segment. So I've cut out just this segment. I'm going to go to my selection tool. I'm just going to select this part that I cut out, right click and choose copy. Okay, I'm going to go back to my Climb Iowa sequence here. I'm going to move my voiceover pieces just over a bit so there's plenty of room. I'm going to move my playhead so it's in this empty space. And then I can just do Command V. And it looks like it's such a long bit here. I think I've even covered up some of my voiceover here. So I'm going to zoom out even more. I'm going to move these bits of voiceover over even more here so they're not getting covered up. And then Command V. And there's my chunk of my interview that I want to use. I'm going to move that over so I don't have any empty space right here, right? I'm just going to move this over here. And then now I have this interview.
So he's probably the one who stands out the most for doing that kind of outreach and work.
Yeah. So do you guys do like a lot of outreach within Des Moines, just knowing that there's kind of like a big range of demographics here?
All right. So what I have here is I have my conversation between Anna and Logan. And what I notice, there's actually a quick change I need to make. I'm sorry. I should be able to do this here. I did notice one issue with my, shoot. Let's do that again. We're going to start over from there. So I've cut out this bit. One thing I noticed actually after I did this cut here is
That,
my
and then just
audio
we
is
have-
not is actually not going to carry over into my yeah. All right. One more thing I actually need to do, I need to click into, because I made that change to my audio, I'm going to click on my highlighted clip here and then go to Effect Controls up here on the left. And then here where it says, it looks like my panner was set to pan all the way to one side. So I'm going to click on this little stopwatch here, the panner, so that's not blue anymore, so it's white. And then where it says -100, just put in 0. Same thing for this one too. This other audio 2, this pan here, click on that so the stopwatch is gray, and then change that to 0. And I'm going to need to do that for each of these little clips here that I cut out. Sorry for the confusion there. I just caught that as I was putting this tutorial together. So for each of these little segments here that you have, make sure that these are panned to 0. Sorry, it's a little bit out of order, but that will make sure that this sounds right. And you probably notice that if you're wearing headphones as you're editing. Okay, now I've got this little clip here, this little section here. I'm going to go ahead and right click and copy it. Then I'm going to go to my main kind of rough cut. And here's what I'll do. I'm going to zoom way out. I'm going to zoom way out so I can see everything. And I'm going to take this little bit of voiceover right here, these last couple bits here, and move them way over here. I just don't want them to get covered up. I'll move my playhead somewhere in some empty space and just Command V. And there, I've got my interview right there. Now I can zoom back in. And I can pull this over to the left a little bit. And let's say that this sequence right here, this kind of conversation is a really great conversation that I want to highlight or something like that. Now I want to go back into my multi-camera view for this. So I'm going to make sure I click on this clip here and then click on this little hopscotch grid to give me my multi-camera view. And we're going to do multi-camera editing again. Got a lot of different options here, right? So if Logan is speaking and I don't need to see, I just want to see Logan for a while, I can just see him speaking.
So do you guys do like a lot?
Let's see, I'm going to actually have this start with, since this one starts with Anna, I'm going to go ahead and have this. So
There's kind of like a big range of demographics here.
So I'm going to start actually have the first thing that people see is the both camera view, and then maybe about here or so I might make a cut. And then I'll click on this section here that I just created, and I'll make this the Logan camera.
So yeah, we both do kind of our donations program where we will like donate like passes and entry for people to come in and climb.
And then maybe here, even though Anna isn't speaking, every once in a while, since you have a camera on, you know, these different angles, it really helps the viewer to have sometimes where we go over to the person reacting, right? So Anna's reacting briefly to what Logan is saying.
Entry for people to come in and climb, both on a like.
And then just that for a little bit, and then we can go to this camera angle here.
Request bases and also like us like sending things out to people.
And this is where you can kind of make those changes as you want to. You can also do this live, so to speak. You can do this camera switching, we'd call it doing it live. The way that you would do that is like this. If you put your playhead right here, or just let's undo those that I just did, those cuts I just made. If you go here, move your playhead to the beginning of this, and you have your multi-camera view open, and you just press play, and you use the 1, 2, and 3 keys on your keyboard. 1 will give you camera angle 1, 2 will give you camera angle 3, 3 will give you camera angle 3. What I'm going to do is, as this is playing, I'm going to switch to the camera angle that I want to switch to. I'm going to start with camera 3 because it's it's both of them talking. But then I'm going to actually punch these numbers as it's playing to switch the camera angles, and you'll see what happens to my timeline after I'm done with that.
So do you guys do like a lot of outreach within Des Moines, just knowing that there's kind of like a big range of demographics here in Des Moines?
We do. So yeah, we both do kind of our donations program where we will like donate like passes and entry for people to come in and climb, both on a like request basis and also like us like sending things out to people.
Okay. Now take a look what happened here. It actually made cuts everywhere where I did a camera switch. And one thing it didn't do, I kind of wish it would, it didn't make audio cuts here. I'm gonna have to do that myself. I'm just gonna use my razor tool here, and I'm also gonna make those audio cuts right underneath where I made those other cuts there. That way everything is still connected here. And then it looks like I still, it kind of detached them too. It's a little bit annoying. So I'm going to highlight the video and audio, do my Command L. Might have to do it a couple times here to link them all. And just highlight them all to link them. So for some reason it unlinks them, but it's not a ton of work to get them just relinked again. And I'm just doing that. Okay, great.
A lot of outreach.
So it's made those
within
cuts
Des
for me.
Moines, just knowing that there's kind of
But
a
again,
big
if
range.
that process of having to unlink and link and everything like that is more inconvenient than just going through and not doing it live, but just kind of cutting it the way you were doing it before, that's fine too.
in Des Moines.
We do. So yeah, we both through kind of our donations program where we will like donate like passes and
So for example, this part here where he
passes and
where he kind of has this like long pause here, that might be the kind of place where I might maybe switch cameras or something like that. So let's see
will,
that.
like donate like passes and entry for people to come in and climb.
So I'm going to actually I'm going to take out this little section that I made here. I'm just going to stretch this back out.
Entry for people to come in and climb.
So here
We
I
will,
want to
like donate like passes and
right here where he starts to kind of say I'm going to make a cut right here. It's going to cut all of those, right? And then here where he's actually saying entry or something like that, I'm going to cut out that dead space, click in this dead space, right click, choose ripple delete.
for people to come in.
And then I don't want to have a jump cut where we jump ahead of time. So for this part here, maybe I'll make this Anna's reaction or something like that.
Donate like passes and entry for people to come in and climb, both on a like request basis and also like.
And again, he has this really long pause where he says, so I'm going to cut that part there, ripple delete.
Like request basis and also like us like sending things out to.
That just makes him sound a little bit more articulate. Great, so that's kind of the process here. Now, what I imagine you'll do is you'll have a decent chunk here that is just this multi-camera interview. You also have another component here, though, where he gives you a little bit of a tutorial, right? So I'm going to look in these sequences here. I know we have this in camera A. We have this footage here, right, of him teaching you. I don't know if you have multiple camera angles of this or not. That's what I'm looking for. I think we do have a couple different camera angles of this, right? Yeah. So for this tutorial, where he's kind of giving you the tutorial, where you've got it from multiple camera angles, I don't know if you got a third camera angle on that or not. I think you did, yeah. So yeah, you have 3 camera angles of this tutorial that he gave you. The process that you will do is exactly the same as you did for this multi-camera interview. So you're going to find the clips that correspond to this tutorial that he's given you. You're going to again create a new sequence from clip for each of those. Maybe you'll call that sequence camera A tutorial or something like that. Camera B tutorial, camera C tutorial. So you'll have even more sequences that you'll add to your sequences folder. You'll make a multi-camera sequence with the high quality audio for that as well, and you will include that in this here as well. So maybe what I might recommend is have just like the best, highest impact quotes from the interview, the stuff that really just kind of helps us get to know exactly what we need to know. And then after that, we're going to make another multi-camera sequence. So you'll have another sequence over here that'll be from the tutorial, and then you will drop that in here just like you did with the interview. And then at the end, you can end with these OTFs that you gathered. For the OTFs, I think the OTFs you just did with a single camera. So for example, I'm trying to find one of the OTFs. I think the OTFs you just did with one camera. So for those OTFs, you don't need to make entirely new sequences for them. You will just need to synchronize the audio from the video with the higher quality audio that you recorded off camera. But you have a lot of footage to work with. I think it's a really great video. So the basic structure then is we have our opening voiceover here with some B-roll footage. We have our interview, which you're going to edit basically like a multi-camera interview. You have your tutorial, which you'll also edit basically like a multi-camera interview. Then you'll have a little bit more, a couple more voiceovers at the end with then your OTFs, and then done. I'm not going to go through all of that process, but when you've finished, when you're all done with this edit, you don't have to do any color correction right now. You don't have to do a lot of audio mixing. If the audio is not perfect, if the color is not perfect, that's fine. Also, if you have some footage that you recorded in 60 FPS, that you could do as slow-mo, just bookmark that for now. You don't have to worry about that quite yet. One thing I also recommend, you shot so much beautiful B-roll. So during this interview, while you while Logan and Anna are talking, take some B-roll footage, and let's look at B-roll footage too. So let's not make this a big chunk of this video where we're only seeing these 3 camera angles of you talking. Let's also have some B-roll in one of these upper tracks here. So for example, let's take a B-roll clip that I really like here, of these rings, or a B-roll clip that I like here of people kind of this nice pan here. Let's take this B-roll and have some of that B-roll kind of showing up above the interview here, so we're not just seeing the 3 camera angles for the interview. Since the audio is not that important for these B-roll clips, for these, you can actually just click and drag over this little video icon. It says drag video only, and that will allow you to drag just the video clip itself over some of this. So as Logan is talking, or as Anna is talking, if you want to give your viewers a break from just seeing them talking in that conversation, and you want to show off this great B-roll you have, just place that B-roll above that conversation. So again, you'll be done when you've got... So I think we have a pretty decent structure here. We have your voiceover here, you'll have some B-roll over that voiceover. You have your interview, which you will edit just like a multi-camera interview. And then you have your tutorial, which is another multi-camera interview sequence that you'll make. And then you'll have your OTFs. Make sure that you show plenty of that great B-roll that you have. If Logan says something that you have relevant B-roll for, make sure to include that on top in a track above. I think you have so much to work with. It's going to be a great project. We will do color correction, sound stuff, and also work on if you have any footage that's appropriate for slow-mo. We'll work on that for the final cut, but I think you're in really good shape. Let's talk about how to export this now. Let's talk about how to submit this assignment. I can't grade this assignment or look at it unless you export it. So that's the next step here. When you're done making those edits, you've got the structure of everything done. You'll go up to this Export tab right here. And we're going to work on exporting this video. The file name will actually make sure that what you're exporting is this sequence. So make sure that this sequence is the one that's open, your rough cut sequence. Then the file name should be Climb Iowa Rough Cut, your name, Rough Cut. Under location, very important to click this because you want to make sure that you're saving this into your exports folder. By default, you'll probably see a little small window like this. Click on this little arrow here so we can see more options. You'll go to your Climb Iowa folder, your exports folder in there, and click on Save. The preset can be the match source one. The format should be H.264. And then you can just choose Export. Okay, once that export is done, you can go ahead and quit Premiere. Make sure you save first. So go to File, Save, and then go to File, or go to Premiere Pro, and you can just quit Premiere Pro. That's fine. You'll get that Premiere added for you. First of all, it put your project into this, I don't know why it didn't put it in the projects folder. I'm just going to click and drag it into that projects folder. And then these 2 autosave folders, I'm just going to also drag those into the projects folder, just because I like organization. You're going to see something new in your exports folder, though. You'll see that export that you just made.
There's one place.
It's an MP4, right? It doesn't have any music. It's not color corrected. It's not perfect yet, but it's pretty good. We're going to open up our Blackboard page, and here's how you'll submit the assignment. On our Blackboard page, go to the Shared Files folder. Find the Fall 22 folder. Find the folder with your group. Find the Exports folder there, and then just drag and drop your export. Now make sure to don't go away from this page until it's actually done doing the upload. You can know it's done if you click on where it says uploading right here. You'll see that kind of progress bar. And then that's how you'll know it's done. And then once you've done that, once you know that it's there, you can close this tab, and all you need to submit here for the assignment is just a note letting me know that you've completed the assignment. Okay, I think you have a great project. It's going to be a really great piece for your portfolio. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you put together, and good luck.